Have you noticed that lately, in crime news and also here on the channel, there have been several stories that don't even need investigation? Crimes committed with such simplicity, and maybe simplicity isn't even the right word here. But the police quickly find the person or people responsible, like the police practically stumble upon the answers even before they start investigating. No elaborate plan, smart planning, or sophisticated resources in the execution. These are deaths among acquaintances, supposed friends, family members, or people who were in love until then. And today, unfortunately, the story I'm going to tell starts exactly like this. Simple, up until the moment it stopped being so. And when it stops being simple, it dives into a level of brutality that shocked even those who've seen it all. I think everyone understood. The simple in quotes here isn't, metaphorically speaking, actually the simple that clashes with the bizarre, grotesque. An unusual banality, a very complex equation. I don't think there's a better word to define it than unusual itself. But you must be wondering why I'm saying this, right? Starting the episode like this, aren't I? Because there's another recent case that's very similar in the way it started, but it ended in a completely different way. So different that the people involved decided to share everything on TikTok, and the video just went viral, surpassing 5 million views. I'm Marcos Campos. Welcome everyone. Today, I'll tell you this whole story in detail. If you enjoy real cases, subscribe and follow me. Becoming a member also helps a lot. If you can't, that's okay. Just leave a like or a comment, even if it's just an emoji. Deal? Every bit helps. Let's get to the facts. The relationship between Thaisa and Henrique. According to Henrique Cassiano da Silva, he and Thaisa had known each other since childhood because they were classmates and studied at the same school, there in Recife, the capital of the state of Pernambuco. In 2022, they started dating, that is, when the girl was 17 years old and he was 19. And, as happens in many relationships, theirs also had breakups and reconciliations after the famous. Let's take a break. Sometimes, but that's normal and just reflects natural differences between people, right? The need, suddenly, for small adjustments to give in to the other person's opinions and tastes, because a relationship is a process that never ends. It's never really finished, let's say, but they liked each other that way. At the end of 2022, when they decided to get back together, it seems like things got more serious and stable. So much so that they stayed together until August 2025. At that time, they decided to break up because they were fighting a lot again. In Henrique's version, those fights were caused by immaturity. However, I want you to listen very carefully to the little story the guy had to tell. And he stated that Thaisa was very intense and he was more reserved. For example, she liked to walk holding hands and he didn't like that. But hold on to that information. Later on, you'll understand what was really behind Henrique's withdrawn behavior. Despite the end of the relationship, they kept talking on their phones, maintaining a certain friendship until the night of November 17th, 2025. When they met, they went to Henrique's house, and Thaisa only left the next day. However, she was lifeless, stabbed, and her body was mutilated in the process of dismemberment. Well, do you remember what I just said a moment ago? Hold on to that information, because soon you'll understand the real reasons behind that statement. So, do you know why their relationship really ended? It's because Thaisa found out that Henrique wasn't who she thought he was, and that he had been cheating on her for 2 years. Yeah, he had a second girlfriend for 2 years. That was the reason their relationship ended. And for sure, that was the reason he didn't like to show his connection with Thaisa in public, didn't want to hold hands, remember? Yeah, that's it. But on her side, we can assume it was really hard to end the relationship. Many times, a woman who loves is capable of forgiving even the biggest mistakes. There is even a farewell letter written by Thaisa, which shows the greatness of this girl's soul. She laments the end of the relationship, reaffirms the love she felt, and even says that the good memories will remain. The two were described as students. Thaisa was a professional pastry chef and was studying nursing technician at Senac. On her Instagram, on her professional profile, she sold cakes, sweet kits, and shared her work as a pastry chef. However, not much is known about the young man, not even his education. So that's the whole situation regarding their relationship. Now let's move on to the details of the last day in the life of this extraordinary person, Thaisa. The end of a life. Thaisa was last seen on Monday, November 17th, when she left home to go to her nursing technician course class. After that, she was going to a supermarket to buy ingredients for her bakery. When she took too long to return, the family tried to contact her, but got no response. So already in the early hours of Tuesday, November 18th, a post on social media indicated that the young woman was missing and asked for information from anyone who could help find her. She left for her course at Senac and didn't come back home. The last time she spoke with her mother was around 10:27 post-meridium through a message on WhatsApp. Naturally, the family mobilized, and here in the sources, there's a lot of talk about Thaisa's mother. What could this lady possibly imagine right off the bat? Well, that her daughter had gone to meet up with her good-for-nothing ex-boyfriend, the first suspect for the girl's delay in coming home. So Thaisa's mother even exchanged text messages with Henrique, who claimed he didn't know anything about the young woman. Where could she be? Not satisfied with the situation, the family filed a police report at the Department of Homicide and Protection of Persons, And on Tuesday morning, she went to Henrique's property. And the mother didn't go alone, no. Already fearing the worst, she went to the young man's house, accompanied by her husband and a relative who is with the civil police. Henrique Cassiano's house is located in an alley near Joaquim Ribeiro Avenue in the Várzea neighborhood in the west zone of the capital of Pernambuco. People from the area will be able to get their bearings better. In a later interview, Thaisa's mother said she saw through a crack in the window right there at the young man's house that he was only in his underwear inside the house. And that at first, he refused to open the door, using the excuse that he didn't know where the key was. Thaisa's mother and those who were with her, her husband and a relative, insisted. They were firm, and that's how they managed to get Henrique's mother to open the door. And here I'm making an assumption that Henrique's mother was his neighbor, maybe living on the same property, and that's why she had a copy of the key. Anyway, guys, once they were inside the house, they looked for Thaisa in the rooms until they noticed that Henrique's feet were stained with blood. Then the tragedy revealed itself in all its extent and brutality. The lifeless and mutilated body of the girl, who was 21 years old, was found behind a bare wardrobe. She was already missing one arm, and the other showed evidence of dismemberment injuries. There were marks on her neck suggesting possible strangulation and a knife wound on her back. After finding her daughter lifeless, Thaisa's mother called the military police. With that, Henrique Cassiano was caught in the act and initially taken to the Department of Homicide and Protection of Persons in the Cordeiro neighborhood, which is located in the west zone of Recife. Where then did he give his statement? The girl's body was sent to the medical examiner's office for examination. Knives stained with blood were found by the police under a washing machine. According to the civil police report, this suggested that Henrique was in the process of dismembering the body when he was surprised by Thaisa's parents. The purpose of the dismemberment would be to conceal the body, since the arm that had been removed was in a plastic bag. Wooden box, also described as a wine box. In other words, he was going to transport the body parts to dispose of them. In the house, A bucket with blood was also found, and the crime scene was quite messy, but the killers seemed to be calm. The civil police also seized computers and cell phones. At the police station, Henrique even claimed that the baker had killed herself because she was depressed. Can you believe it? But the details he shared, which will be part of the court case, I'm going to present now. Some of them, in fact, are obviously lies, and others will have to be verified by the authorities. Testimony of a monster. In Henrique's account, it all started on the morning of Monday, November 17th, when Thaisa supposedly sent a message asking him to meet her near the bus terminal at the University City in the west zone of Recife. The couple supposedly met there at that location around noon. In the conversation that took place between them, Thaisa said she was sad about the situation, their separation, and that she was thinking about taking her own life because of financial debts. On that occasion, her ex-boyfriend told the girl to get those ideas out of her head. But supposedly, around 6:45 post-meridium, Thaisa allegedly sent another message asking if she could go to his house. So they agreed to meet now near the house where he lived. When they met, they bought chicken soup at a food stall and later went to the young man's house where they had consensual intimate relations. Still, according to the femicide perpetrator, the chicken soup had gotten cold, so he left the house, leaving Thaisa alone when he went to his grandmother's house to get a match to light the stove and heat up their dinner. Henrique even made up a story in which he thought the electric stove wasn't working, so he supposedly left to get a match, and when he got back home, Thaisa was already there, hanging from the window bars, hanged with the cord from his jiu-jitsu G-pants. According to his statement, she was in the front area of the house with no bench or chair nearby. He then untied Thaisa, but she was already foaming blood from her mouth in his mind. This would have happened around 10 p.m., and it's important to remember that this time is very close to the time of the last message exchanged between mother and daughter. The young man also said that he tried to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation on Thaisa, but she was already cold and her head was turning purple. So, he decided to drag his ex-girlfriend's body to the middle room of the house. And he got very nervous, not knowing what to do, because he was afraid of being arrested since his fingerprints were on his ex-girlfriend's body. The decision was to cut off her arms and legs, put them in some bags, and then figure out how to get rid of the body. And the evidence. He said he started the dismemberment by cutting Thaisa's left arm. And since he was very nervous, he put on some music to calm himself down while he worked there. During the dismemberment, maybe it's surreal, right? The police had to listen, and so did we, without being able to measure the family's pain during the fact that he listened to anime rap, a rap genre about movie or anime characters. All of this while he was there dismembering his ex-girlfriend because she took her own life and he didn't know what to do. Can you believe it? After separating her arm from the body, he hid it in a garbage bag in another room of the house. Still, while he was cutting Thaisa's right arm, he realized he was making a huge mistake, so he decided to stop. He stated that he tried to use 3 knives to cut up the body parts, and then remembered there was another sharper knife. And here we can say that it was exactly at that moment that Thaisa's parents arrived at the house, accompanied by a family member. It's hard to know for sure if it was exactly at that moment, when confronted by his ex-in-laws, that Henrique handed Thaisa's mother a letter supposedly written before the girl took her own life. A version that was dismissed by the police, by the evidence actually, by all the evidence gathered there and correlated. The crime scene didn't show any rope or any kind of material compatible with the hanging version. The body had signs of strangulation and a stab wound in the back, indicating the assault happened before death, and so on. Thaisa Melo's burial took place on Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Isn't it unnecessary to state the obvious? The family and friends were all moved, perplexed, unable to believe what had happened. Her mother, whose image and identity have been protected, mentioned that during the night of the 17th to the 18th, after the crime, Henrique was in contact with her, his ex-mother-in-law, saying that he was worried because Thaisa was the woman of his life. In other words, a cold, very well-planned and calculated attitude, isn't it? For the victim's parents, they believe it was a premeditated femicide, with Henrique luring the victim knowing his intentions. The family was devastated by the pain. Other family members stated that everyone felt the loss of Thaisa and that now all they could do was wait for justice. Cousins also told the press that they never imagined Henrique could commit a crime of this magnitude. He was described as someone with a withdrawn behavior, who attended family lunches and gatherings. The old wolf in sheep's clothing, the old saying, "Wow, no one imagined he would be capable of that." Of course, this case will stay on our radar, waiting for the outcome of this trial. I don't know what your guess is, but it seems like a pretty classic case of femicide, doesn't it? A relationship that ended because the guy was no good, he was unfaithful. However, he can't accept that his ex-girlfriend moves on and is happy. Maybe the prosecution will clarify and eventually prove this guy's vile motivations, who apparently liked living in this comfortable situation of bigamy, of maintaining two relationships at the same time, without caring about anyone else's feelings except, of course, his own. That, or something very similar to that, with some fancier name. Going back to the information that was mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the fact that there was this second relationship in Henrique's life with a girlfriend, whose name we don't know, or rather, we couldn't find. It reminds us of the case of Camila Rosa and also Mariana Loreto from Palmas, Tocantins. I'll sum it up for you, okay? It's like something out of a soap opera, but it happens in real life. It caught both of them by surprise, including recently in 2025. Without knowing it, Camila Rosa, a student, 22 years old, and Mariana Loreto, a 36-year-old lawyer, were in a relationship with the same man. Camila, who was in love with her boyfriend, who officially asked her father for permission to date her. Suddenly, she finds out that the guy is committed to the lawyer Mariana Loreto. Even though she was shocked by his betrayal and by the existence of a rival, let's say, Camila didn't make any kind of scene. She got in touch with Mariana and together they planned to expose the trashy Don Juan, who was deceiving and using both women. The guy, whose face wasn't shown on social media, was described as a bit difficult, manipulative, and easily offended. Camila and Mariana set a trap that the boyfriend easily fell into. Invited to stay overnight at one of their homes, he was surprised the next morning to find both girlfriends beside him. Looking at this narcissist who thought he was smart, he simply said he didn't like that and left offended. He didn't even seem as shocked or embarrassed as he should have, at least. The two, Camila and Mariana, became friends and shared this personal story on TikTok in an ironic way. The video reached over 5 million views and 600,000 likes. You must be wondering what we mean by that, right? Relationships end. For various reasons, including cowardly betrayals, and that goes for both men and women, okay? Some breakups cause a lot of pain, but there are 8 billion human beings on this planet Earth. In other words, everyone can find happiness again, right? Meet someone and allow yourself to be happy. Were you betrayed, abandoned? Move on. Don't feel anger any longer than necessary to heal, and don't insist on trying to fix a relationship you already know has no future. Even if your ex-boyfriend seems nice and comes back with his tail between his legs, feeling sorry or regretful. Guys, don't tempt fate. Don't go for that thing of talking again or going to the guy's house to pick something up. Anyway, don't go. Or, if you need to go, go with someone. Your father, brother, a relative, someone who can protect you, someone guided by reason and not by emotion. In a situation like this, right? When it comes to a guy who wants to act tough, usually he only does that when the woman is alone with him, right? Every day, literally every day, women die who made wrong decisions, even after having made the right decisions. Given that, what can I say? Share this content, share it with the women who need to hear this. And you, who get uncomfortable when you hear the word femicide, for example, it bothers you. Stop being a foolish idiot and trying to politicize the topic. This is a fact. There's nothing ideological about it. There are some fools who think women are their property. If she's not theirs, she won't belong to anyone else, so she has to be disposed of. If this were a serious country, these bastards, these losers would all be serving life sentences. But the party goes on around here and it's truly ideological and rotten. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Don't forget to leave your comment. It's super important for our community. Ruivo sends a kiss. See you next episode.